very dangerous because if Anthony Joshua hits him on the chin, he will put him to sleep.
Utter madness that he would run the risk of absolutely jeopardizing his life, because he's not a big heavyweight. He's a small heavyweight. He's 5 inches smaller than Joshua.
This is a real fight. It should be over in 90 seconds because Anthony Joshua is a legit gold medalist, big, heavy, super heavyweight, crazy athlete, awesome power, and Jake Paul just isn't on that level in any way. He's not in end. He's undersized.
Boxing pros warn that Jake Paul is walking straight into unforgiving danger by stepping up to Anthony Joshua, a man whose knockout power lives on an entirely different planet, one Jake has never come close to feeling. Many experts fear this matchup stretches the limits of safety and could turn disastrous if Joshua lands clean. Gareth A. Davies adds that, given the circumstances and the huge weight gap, letting them engage in a full fight simply isn't right.
There is a danger in this fight. The odds are Joshua's 1-12. Obviously, Jake Paul is 6-1. Yeah, to win this fight in a 2-horse race in which this is a guy who lost to Tommy Fury, Tyson Fury's brother, in an 8-round fight. Who, for me, I wrote that it would damage his legacy a week ago. It will damage his legacy for several reasons. If the Deontay Wilder fight never emerges, which it looks like it isn't, I've been calling for that fight for ages. If those two got in a ring together, it's still a massive fight. It's a dangerous fight to sanction, in my view. It sets the wrong precedent. It is 10-ounce gloves. It is a boxing match. It's not an exhibition. This isn't a 58-year-old Mike Tyson. This is one of the most dangerous finishers in the world, who is probably 5 levels above Jake Paul and a weight division above him. I think it's irresponsible to let those two in a ring together in a proper boxing match. That's my view. It doesn't damage his bank balance, but if he earns 70 million...
McQuiggan's explosive criticism captures the quiet dread many seasoned fighters feel when they picture Jake Paul standing across the ring from Anthony Joshua. After decades around true heavy hitters, McQuiggan knows how everything changes the moment real power lands. He warns that Jake is stepping into something far beyond entertainment, far beyond influence or boxing, and far beyond the reach of simple athletic confidence. Joshua's knockout power isn't theory. It's carved into the history of men far bigger, stronger, and more experienced than Jake. McQuiggan stresses that Jake is still, at heart, a light heavyweight who has never faced anyone whose natural size, reach, or punch impact comes even close to Joshua.
Some people are saying, AJ's grabbing the bag. There's nothing wrong with that, because anybody else, if they got offered that kind of money, they would do it. So, yep. And some people are suggesting he might damage his legacy. Where do you sit with the decision of him taking that fight? And it's a professional 8-round fight as well.
Yes, it's a highly dangerous fight for Jake Paul. I don't know what he's doing, unless they have done some sort of caveat or some sort of agreement that he says he's going to go easy on him, or he's not going to go flat out. But I've been tossing this up and down in my mind and trying to figure how, and under God, when he had agreed to fight someone like Tank Davis, who is several divisions below him. That's more like what Jake Paul does, and then he goes from there to fighting Anthony Joshua. I mean, just look at what happened to Francis Ngannou, who's a big, athletic, tough guy and had gone 12 rounds with Tyson Fury and given him a real ding dong, and then he gets absolutely obliterated in a round and a half against Joshua. That shows you, despite the fact that he's been knocked out since by Daniel Dubois, who could knock out anybody, by the way, in any weight division or in any era of the heavyweight division. He's such a powerful guy; he could knock anybody out if he hits them properly. But it just seems utter madness And
From his perspective, Jake isn't stepping into a competitive match at all, but into a collision with a fighter designed to dismantle top-tier heavyweights. The size gap is only the beginning of the danger. The level of punching intelligence, timing, and raw destruction Joshua generates through tight shots, uppercuts, and sharp counters is something Jake has never even felt in training. McQuiggan's frustration comes from watching people shrug off the threat, as if the ring suddenly becomes harmless because Jake has social media confidence or a few past wins. To him, this matchup isn't hype. It's a stark reminder of human vulnerability when facing a true heavyweight force.
Where he says, I won't go hard on him, or I'll go easy, or I'll spar with him for 8 rounds. Because it's just so ridiculous. I mean, if Joshua hits him properly, he'll knock him unconscious. And if he knocks him unconscious and he gets a bleed in his brain and he ends up with a subdural hematoma and goes to hospital and is in dire straits, where does that leave boxing? That puts us in a very, very awkward spot. So it's hard not to believe that they've got some sort of caveat, some sort of agreement whereby, I mean, most heavyweights box with 10-ounce gloves, or sometimes...
Dave Allen's perspective isn't built on hype. It's drawn from the patterns he's seen throughout Jake Paul's carefully managed rise. He notes that Jake's record was crafted in environments where everyone walked away paid, safe, and satisfied. Controlled matchmaking, calculated risks, and danger levels kept on a leash. But Allen argues the situation is nothing like that, because Anthony Joshua isn't a celebrity guest, a retired icon, or a cruiserweight playing along for a payday. Joshua is an active heavyweight with championship pedigree, knockout wins over elite contenders, and a track record of ending fights with chilling efficiency. Allen warns that if Joshua decides to fight Jake with even half the intensity he brings to real rivals, the outcome will look nothing like Jake's previous controlled bouts. The threat isn't just a knockout. It's the sheer weight of heavyweight power slamming into a body that has never absorbed anything remotely comparable. And even sparring with big men doesn't prepare you for the real thing, where punches arrive without mercy, without warning, and with full destructive intent. To Allen, stepping in with Joshua isn't a flashy crossover. It's entering true heavyweight warfare.
But he couldn't beat Tommy. Could he win the area light heavyweight title? I'm not sure. Don't know who the champion is. If I had a look, I could tell you, but I'm not sure. He then boxes Nate Diaz. So he's boxed 1 boxer so far, if we're keeping count, and he's beat none. Then he boxes Andre August, who I believe was a pro, and this is now at 14-3, so he's now actually a cruiserweight. Andre August, I'm not sure. Ryan Borland, 17-2. Again, I'm not sure. But fair play, he's beat 2 boxers here. Beat 2 boxers, what can I say? He then fights Mike Perry, who is an MMA fighter, bare knuckle boxer. He's not a glove boxer. He then fights Mike Tyson, which was an exhibition, weren't it, really, for all intents and purposes. Now, the big jump here is in 4 months, he's put on 2 stone. So he's put on 2 stone in 4 months. He then boxed Julio Cesar Chavez, and he's now lost 2 stone. He's back down at 14-3, and he beat Chavez, who is a boxer, but has been shot to bits for the last 10 years. So, as far as Jake Paul goes, I don't mind Jake Paul. I don't really know what he does or what he is and what he's achieved in boxing. I would say fair play. I'd say, you know what, mate, why not? I don't blame him. And the money he's made, amazing, buzzing. If people want to watch him box, great. So he started off boxing, I think a YouTuber or 2, basketball player maybe, was he? Some MMA fighters, and he weren't Ngannou, weren't Cyril Gann, weren't Big Madu can box. He was boxing welterweights, middleweights, max, way past the best. But that's also fine because it's an entertainment game and it's okay. That's fine. Loses to Tommy, fights a few pro boxers, he then fights Mike Tyson, which was a professional contest But for all intents and purposes, a bit of an exhibition because, to be fair to Jake Paul, he could have flattened Mike Tyson at any time. People say Mike Tyson held him up, he held back. If anyone was holding back, it was Jake.
Some analysts argue the danger doesn't belong to Jake alone. Anthony Joshua steps into real risk as well. They warn that if Joshua wins, but doesn't dominate with absolute precision, the victory could be seen as a blemish instead of an accomplishment. At his level, reputation isn't built on just winning. It's built on how completely he dismantles the man in front of him. If Jake lands even one clean shot, critics could twist it into a narrative that Joshua is fading or losing his edge. And if the fight turns messy or more competitive than expected, Joshua could face a wave of embarrassment that fuels public doubt, especially in a sport where one strange moment can rewrite everything. Even a single lucky punch from Jake could explode into viral headlines that overshadow Joshua's entire legacy. That's why some experts believe this matchup traps Joshua almost as much as it endangers Jake, pushing him into a high-stakes scenario with little reward and massive reputational risk. On paper, it looks simple, but the pressure behind it makes the danger far greater than most fans understand.
For Joshua is because even if Joshua wins this fight, it has to be perfect. There cannot be a moment of hesitation from Anthony Joshua. He can't look mentally shot. He can't take a punch, really. If he takes a big punch from Jake Paul, if he gets hurt in any way by Jake Paul, if he doesn't absolutely ice Jake Paul within a few rounds of this 8-round scheduled bout, well, then it really affects his credibility. All the things that have ever been said about him, he's a hype job, he's been coddled. He didn't really want to fight Deontay Wilder when they were both in their prime. He's just a big bodybuilder, as Tyson Fury loves to put it. Anyone who's ever doubted him will have absolute ability to do so. And so the fact that this is actually a sanctioned fight, it tells me that Anthony Joshua cannot be going in there or will not go in there and try to carry Jake Paul. Otherwise, it might as well just be an exhibition. If he does go in there and carry Jake Paul, my fear for him is that most people will not be aware that that's what he's doing. Reputationally, it would just cause serious damage. And like I say, I think the only way he comes out of this unscathed, reputationally, is by going in there and securing a clean knockout. Anthony Joshua can't do anything to boost how people view him as a boxer in this fight. All it can do is damage him unless he's punch perfect. He's fighting someone who realistically has nothing to lose and absolutely everything to gain. And that in itself can be dangerous. It can be risky. And given that Jake Paul has achieved so little, given that Anthony Joshua wants to remain relevant and credible, so it seems, because he has a couple of potentially big fights left, especially against Tyson Fury, why is he doing this? He doesn't want to jeopardize that, surely. Well, I can tell you exactly how I think he has rationalized this in his mind. The first thing is that he's going to get paid an absolute shed load of money. Around 50 million is what we're hearing. I've heard 50 million pounds, 50 million USD, but whatever happens, it's a significant amount of cash. Possibly will be one of his highest ever career paydays, possibly similar to what he'd make for a Tyson Fury fight. But for what? Like 1% of the risk? I don't know. I don't know how to put it in numeric.
Chris Aldry's viewpoint is rooted in the performance patterns Joshua has shown throughout his entire career. He explains that Joshua consistently delivers exactly what fans expect, based on the opponent's skill level and the danger they bring. When people predicted early destruction, Joshua delivered early destruction. When they anticipated a calm, tactical approach, he delivered controlled, technical wins. Algieri argues that this history is why so many believe Joshua could finish Jake Paul in barely 90 seconds if he decides to attack from the opening bell. And from this perspective, if that doesn't happen, the entire credibility of the event will immediately come into question.
His reputation as an elite heavyweight. Do you understand the analogy I'm getting to, Chris?
Yeah, and I agree. And but listen, Joshua's done this already. He fought a guy that he was supposed to destroy,
right?
And then he went out there and he destroyed him. And he didn't play with his food.
Yep.
He didn't say, okay, it was Ngannou I'm talking about, obviously.
Of course.
Who gave Tyson Fury fits and really had everyone questioning Tyson Fury's ability because he struggled with an MMA fighter in his pro boxing debut. Anthony Joshua didn't do that. He went out there and did what we all expected Tyson Fury to do and completely wiped the floor with the guy. And if Joshua doesn't do that this fight, I agree with you, Jimmy. It's going to hurt his stock. It's going to hurt the way that people perceive him moving forward. And also, I think, honestly, and if he doesn't go out there and just lay into Jake Paul and end it in the first, if not second round, to me, it's gonna look fishy to me. It's gonna look like this was a setup. This was an exhibition. This wasn't a real fight. If this is a real fight, it should be over in 90 seconds because Anthony Joshua is a legit gold medalist, super heavyweight, crazy athlete, awesome power, and Jake Paul just isn't on that level in any way. And he's not in.
He warns that anything less than a dominant first-round finish will push many to believe something behind the scenes influenced the pace or intensity. That suspicion comes from understanding just how enormous the skill gap is between a lifelong heavyweight champion and someone with only a handful of pro fights. Algieri stresses that Joshua's punching mechanics, ring control, and ability to create openings in an instant make him a nightmare for anyone outside the heavyweight class. So if the fight drags longer than expected, critics may claim it was orchestrated or softened, placing heavy scrutiny on Joshua's decisions and overall performance.
Paul saying that we're running away from him. We're not, mate. We're not running from you. You know, we offered to box you right next door to you, Canada. Canada. Anywhere in Canada, because we can't get to America, and you knew we couldn't get there. Offering 15 million. Stand on to your offer for 15 million. We'll box you anywhere in the world, but I know it ain't going to happen because you're not a stand-on man, are you? Because we've had this way before. Did we not bet you $3 million on national TV in front of the world's media? And what did you do? You welched. You didn't pay. You give us a middle finger. Like your other mate, KSI, he bet me £200,000 in front of the world's media. He never paid. So really, Jake, we can't take your word for nothing, can we? Because what you do, you tread where the grass is low, my old pal, saying that you may have offered $15 million, but you knew full well we can't get into the United States of America. And we did offer to box you next door in Canada. Phone went quiet by you and your manager. But listen, mate, what you say I take with a pinch of salt, my friend, because I told you, put it all in writing, send it to our lawyer. Within 10 weeks, we can be there in the ring with you, anywhere in the world except America. But like I say, you say things you don't stand on, do you? 3 million quid? You know, we said, okay, we'll bet. Deal done. Shook hands with me in front of the world's media. You didn't pay, mate. So you offering this and offering that don't mean squat diddly, does it? You or your other mate. In my word, mate, I tell you the truth, mate. Back in the old days, my pal, you'd be called odd pig to a devil, a Welsher, not a man. Can't take your word for no, which you can't anyway. But that's all I'm going to say on it. You want to fight, put your $15 million in writing to our legal team. You can be in the ring with 8 weeks anywhere in the world. That's all I'm going to say to you, mate, except America. You got that loud and clear? But it has to be in writing from...
The biggest layer of seriousness comes from the fact that this fight will be a professional contest etched permanently onto both fighters' records. This is an exhibition, not a sparring showcase, and not some scripted crossover moment. For Joshua, a true heavyweight champion, losing to Jake Paul would go down as one of the biggest shocks in modern boxing history, threatening to overshadow everything he has achieved. Even a single moment of vulnerability could ignite endless debates about whether he's slipping. For Jake, the fight carries the weight of proving he belongs as he tries to move from celebrity boxing into real professional territory. But the pressure falls far heavier on Joshua, because he's the one who cannot afford risk in a matchup the world expects him to dominate.
Is going on people's records. AJ got to take him serious because this isn't some exhibition. We're running out some judges to act like there's a decision and someone won. No, someone's going to win, someone's going to lose here. It's 8 rounds, 3-minute rounds. Again, heavyweight, pro bout, 10-ounce gloves. AJ talking about breaking internets over faces. I think he meant to say breaking his face on the internet. Who knows? Maybe you can do both in the big 2025. But then you have the weight limit, 245 pounds, and people are automatically going to go, oh, God, here's the thing. Oh, here's the thing in the contract. No, stop all that. And I'm going to go on a rant in a second for all the people that thought this was fake, for all the people that thought that Jake wouldn't do this, for all the people that thought he was scared. I'm going to go on that rant in a second. But, okay, yes, 245 is a weird number because Jake has already fought at heavyweight. He fought Mike Tyson at 220-something. But again, I understand it a little bit. We're on short notice here. You don't want to have a Tyson Fury type situation with...
Analysts argue that the permanence of the result magnifies every second of the bout, shifting it from simple entertainment to a career-defining gamble. Because the fight is fully sanctioned, both men must enter with absolute seriousness, raising the stakes far beyond anything seen in previous influencer matchups. With reputations, records, and long-term legacies hanging in the balance, this clash stops being a crossover spectacle and becomes a high-pressure professional commitment for both fighters.
Since this time period. But this was in 2017. AJ was the heavyweight world champion. Jake was on red carpets for Bizarrevarks on the Disney Channel, looking like every fuckboy that came out of the Vine era. This shouldn't be the reality that we're living in. Now, I've sat here and I've asked myself over and over and over, what's the upside for Jake here? What's the upside? Because he can make money with everybody, right? Jake can make money fighting Gervonta Davis. He can make money fighting freaking Ryan Borland and Andre Agassi. He can make money fighting Mike Tyson and Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. And I'm just asking myself, what stop asking me 267 million. Okay, yeah. If that's a real number, there's no context there. I don't know if that's referring to something else, but if Jake is getting paid 206,
That's a wrap for today's video. Stay tuned, and we'll see you next time.